right, Scott, this week, grab your pickaxe because we're digging deep. If you're enjoying these videos, make sure you head over to our YouTube at Inside the Game and hit that subscribe button, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. So this week, Scott, we're checking out Volcanoids on the PC through Steam. This kind of survival steampunk. It is a survival game completely here with this steampunk kind of overlay. What did you think of this one? It was really interesting. I haven't really played one like this before.
Yeah, well, my first impressions of this game were that everything's a little weird looking. I don't mean that in an offensive tone, but it's just it's a very PC game, if you know what I mean. There's a lot of text on screen, and the menu system can be kind of confusing and very aggressive. So it kind of threw me off there because it is a first-person shooter, and it is, advertised with some heavy action and shooting and that sort of thing. So I was pleasantly surprised to get past the menu system and get into the action, and I think that's where this game excels. But what was your first impression?
Well, it kind of throws you into the game like really quickly. I found the game loaded up super fast. I jumped right into the first little bit of the tutorial to try to kind of learn about the game and figure out what was going on. So you get a few real kind of basic missions to start off through this sea captain. And he kind of gives you, the layout of kind of what you're going to be dealing with throughout the course of this game, because you're going to be taking over a drilling ship and kind of drilling your way around this island that you now are on. And you're going to be, mining a bunch of resources and upgrading your ship and doing all this while there's a active volcano. And this is kind of where it threw me for a bit of a loop, because you kind of get tossed in, and this timer's right at the top of the screen, and depending on what difficulty you set it on depends on how much time you have before the volcano erupts each time. And you have to do a lot of tasks sometimes in between, this short period of time before you have to dive back down underground. And like you said, there's a lot of text in this, so you're reading a lot. And so you're trying to figure out exactly what, procedures you need to do while you're on your ship, whether it's upgrading or adding certain materials to make certain things to allow you, to move along, or add a piece of equipment to your ship. Like I added turrets fairly early on, which was kind of nice and pretty cool because they actually worked pretty well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to take in. So I don't know. I guess through that whole rant, what I'm saying is there's it's a little overwhelming. My first impressions were that I was a little overwhelmed. There was a lot to really consume in this, and there's a lot of information to take in, and I don't know if that's necessarily the nicest thing to have your game be approachable, right? This one was a little difficult to get into.
Yeah, that's definitely my observation from this as well, is that I had a very difficult time getting into this one, just because the gameplay is a lot of scavenging. It's a lot of survival where you're fighting waves and waves of these robots. And
but they're everywhere.
They are everywhere. They occupy other drill ships, and that becomes a point of gameplay as well. It is really cool, and it's a big kind of game they present to you very early on. I was super overwhelmed by the crafting section. There was a lot of things that, in my opinion, were kind of overcomplicated. If they left a lot of that menu work to the ship to handle and allowed me just to kind of dump my resources into it and pick what I wanted out of it, I feel like that there's maybe cleaner ways they could have gotten away with that and produced the same effect in a more user-friendly interface.
Yeah, for sure.
I wanted to enjoy this game further. The premise of it is really cool, and the timer, when that volcano blows up, it changes the landscape, and it kind of refreshes the map with resources. It's a really cool game mechanic, and I thought it adds that urgency to whatever you're doing on the overworld. I added a section to my ship early on, and so I have this really long, snaky kind of drill ship, and I think that's really cool because I like the ability to make something bigger than my character. I think that's cool. But
Oh yeah.
it's just so hard to understand what I need to do or what's really available to me. That it didn't hook me like maybe it should have.
Yeah, you know what? There are tutorial missions all the way along if you do so, choose to do them. They're not necessarily, a prerequisite. You don't have to always be doing the tutorial missions that come up on the phone in your ship, because there is so much you can just freely do in this game. Like you said, it's a lot of scavenging, so you're picking up materials, whether it's off the enemies you're killing or you're mining things from the environment around, and then you bring it all back to your ship. And then there's all these modules, whether it's an actual physical piece of equipment that's mounted on the floor of your ship, or it's a panel on the wall that you have to interact with, that you have to take, remember what the symbol means, because this one means production. And unless you're highlighting the actual piece of equipment, you need to kind of really learn all the different pieces that you put into your ship, and it's totally customizable. You can put them however you want. So that feature I thought was really cool. So you can really set it up, even though I know the first ship it gets kind of small and dingy. Like you said, you expanded yours. I kind of redid the layout a little bit so I can kind of understand, if I'm producing this, then I put it in this module after it's done and it's close by. So I tried to simplify it myself, but I also had to go in and do that, right? The game doesn't necessarily set you up for that. So again, it is just a tough one to get into, but overall it is a fun game, because like you said, the Volcano is a really interesting kind of fun mechanic, that is that race against time, and you're rushing, and then some of the objectives are pretty far away, and then it kind of changes when you take the drill ship underground, which I thought was pretty cool. So when you actually go down into the ground with his drill ship, you get this kind of top-down overlay of like an underground cavern, and you see your drill ship and you can maneuver it around, and there's lava flows, and you can't be in them for too long or it causes damage to your ship. So this is this whole little different, I'm not going to call it a mini game, but almost like you're driving through the mini map. And it was a kind of a cool feature. I thought there was, some really interesting things with this game. It's just, it took a lot of work to, figure them all out.
Starting on May 20th, they're also adding co-op to the game. So you'll be able to just invite your friends, and up to 4 people, I believe, in the same crew, kind of messing around in the volcanic island. I think that's really cool, because I think that's definitely how this kind of game will be better received by players. If you have people to kind of help you learn the systems, that can be a fun point in the game. But I kind of see a lot of potential in this game. But if we're gonna score it up as it is, what would you give this one?
Well, like we said, we were a little overwhelmed when we first got into it. Visually, this game is definitely a PC title. It didn't blow me away, but by no means does it look bad. I do love the steampunk motif that we have going on. The drill ships are really cool. The enemies even look pretty cool for being kind of basic robots, even though for the most part they're just changing colors. It all looked really good. I did enjoy it, but there was so much to figure out in this game, and it was difficult to get into. So for that, I've got to give it a 6.5.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same mind in a lot of those. It was just overcomplicated for no specific reason that I can tell. And the multiplayer is going to go a long way for this game, but I kind of want to see how it morphs in the near future. It is a small developer, so I want to give them kind of the benefit of the doubt there. I'm going to give this one a 6 out of 10.
There's a base for a great game here. The volcano mechanic really puts the pressure on, but you getting bogged down early by confusing processes and procedures make this one really hard to get into.